Welcome to Investor's Guide. You're watching ET Now. I'm Faye D'Souza. This is the show that puts together an entire portfolio for you by looking at what suits your needs. We have a wonderful show lined up for you today. Grab a pen and paper, write down the advice you hear on the show, and of course, you can get in touch with us if you have anything at all that you need with your money. On the show this week, we'll help a 30-year-old plan for his family's future and retirement. In our product review, we look at the Reliance Equity Opportunities Fund. Is it time to give up on this fund altogether? And we'll tell you if investing in the PPF is better than investing in the VPF. Let me bring in Kumar, the CEO of Value Research and our in-house mutual fund expert. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get straight to our portfolio question. Well, Amit has written in from Kolkata. He's 30 years old. He tells us he has a wife and 2 young children, all of whom depend on him. A monthly income of 75,000 rupees, and he manages to save about 15 out of that every month, which is a good amount to save, Amit. We're happy to hear that. Now, before we get to his investments, he has UTI opportunities, he has a PPF account, some lump sum money going in for tax savings. He does have a life cover of 7.5 lakh rupees, and he has a health cover from his employer. Amit, this is what I want you to think about. With 70,000 rupees every month, your life cover will only be able to sustain your family for 10 months. And that's it, because that is the life cover you have right now. It is far from adequate. You have to first consider getting a larger term cover. Dhirendra, is that top priority right now? Should he consider increasing his term cover?
Yeah, absolutely. These endowment plans are, a very, poor combination of investment insurance and opacity, and it is unlikely to deliver him anything meaningful. So that he should plan his, methodical exit, and he should. I also wonder that if his employer is providing him the medical coverage. One thing which looks like he has missed on listing is his provident fund contribution. And if that is also if that is a contribution being made, or that is a deduction being made from his salary, then he can afford to discontinue this public provident fund. He should just carry on with this account, make the minimum annual investment, and keep it live. But my sense is that for a 30-year-old person who is covered and who has dependents, so he should get his term cover, and after that have all his investment going into equity funds, and that too, 1 or 2 equity funds should do him well. UTI opportunity is a good fund. He should just supplement it with 1 or 2 more funds, and that too of a general kind, that too of the kind like UTI opportunity. For example, if I have to choose the multi-cap funds to make it a more comprehensive portfolio, I would say Quantum Long-Term Equity Fund, or ICICI Prudential Dynamic Fund, or Mirai Asset Opportunity Fund. These could be added 1 or 2 more funds, and he should work towards allocating as much of that 15,000 rupees he's saving into these equity funds.
One of the goals he's written to us about is his home loan. He'd like to knock off that home loan as soon as possible. He has about 19 lakh rupees outstanding on that loan. How would you like to go about it? For someone like him, should he just divert all the bonuses he's going to get over the next couple of years towards bringing down his home loan? Or of the 15,000 that he saves every month, would you rather have him increase his EMI to bring down the tenure of the loan instead?
You should not be borrowing to invest. But I don't think, home loan falls in that class. If I look at it, from a slightly different perspective, ideally one should not be carrying any debt, because the interest which you pay on your debt, on your borrowings, if you are unable to earn that much return on your investments, it is better not to borrow and prepay, or move the money which you will be investing into prepaying those outstanding. But here, in case of home loan, is one exception where I feel that somebody who is 30-year-old who is going to invest for next 10, 15, 20 years, is going to be into an all equity investment. I'm confident that the home loan, the interest which he'll be paying on his home loan is unlikely to be more than what he will be earning on this 10-15 year period. So from that standpoint, home loan is the only thing which one can, because it's a very long-term borrowing. And if one takes that perspective, if I take 15-year SIP return on a good equity fund, I'm very confident of beating the return which I'll be beating the cost of having a long-term home loan borrowing.
So there you have it. That's the advice you're getting right now. The first thing we want you to do is make sure that you buy a term insurance plan that insures you for at least 10 times your annual income. It won't be very expensive at someone with your age group. Of course, then, like Dhirendra said, he's given you a list of funds he'd like you to put your savings into. That list of funds is on your screen. You can get back to it, in touch with us if you need anything else. Let's take another question. Arvind has written in. Now, he invested in the JM Basic Fund, Dhirendra, and he chose the dividend option. He's not very happy with the returns right now. He wants to know if he should pull his money out of those funds. And is there any way to cover up the losses that he's made? Now, we know in 2011, JM Agri Infra and JM Hi-Fi Fund merged into the JM Basic Fund. So that's the fund he's holding right now. What would you recommend he does? Does it make sense for him to invest in a fund like the JM Basic Fund at all?
At one point, this was a blockbuster. In fact, this is a fund which in 2007 was the best performing fund in India. It generated a return of about 107% in that calendar year, which was higher than, which was the highest among all equity funds. And this was following years of unprecedented return in 2005 and 6, and this company actually got built around this fund. The performance of this fund led to the emergence of this company, or the popularity of JM funds. But after that, it has been a disaster. It has never been able to make a comeback, recover from what happened in 2008. And I would say that the way these funds are under pressure. I don't see a hope, and multiple things have happened. Consolidation of these funds, the struggle, the relentless outflow from these funds. That has also been a serious impediment to doing something constructive with these portfolios. So I would say that square up your losses, and that is why and take a lesson from this, that you should not be basing your investment decision purely based on recent performance or past performance. Extraordinary return in a short period of time should be avoided. But it was very difficult to ignore this fund in 2007.
All right, unfortunately, there's not much to be done right now, but to square up your losses, of course, you can get back in touch with us if you have questions. Shiva has also written in, Dhirendra, he wants to know if he should continue his SIP of 1,500 rupees in the UTI Opportunities Fund. He says he can right now invest an additional 5,000 rupees every month. He wants to know which fund he should put that money into. UTI Opportunities is a decent performer, Dhirendra. Should he continue with that particular investment?
Yes, it has been an outstanding fund, and everything continues in place, in terms of continuity of fund manager or the variables in place. So he should carry on with that. In fact, the impressive thing about UTI Opportunity was that this fund has a mandate to emphasize some sectors or some companies in its portfolio, but it never does that. It has largely, most opportunity fund, we see that they turn out to be multi-cap fund and they try and emphasize something which is obscure. But this is a fund which has primarily remained a large cap fund and has not compromised substantially on diversification on all times. Despite that, it has done well and navigated a declining phase of the market very well. So I would say carry on with this, maybe invest more, and adding some more funds to his portfolio. Consider our multi-cap fund selection.
All right, our multi-cap fund selection is on your screen right now. Of course, you can write back to us if you have any more questions. We're taking a quick break. Coming up on the other side, Dhirendra Kumar is going to stay with us. We'll talk about the Reliance Equity Opportunities Fund. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Investors Guide on ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. Dhirendra Kumar is with us as well. It's time for our product review. And this week, we're looking at the Reliance Equity Opportunities Fund. Avan is going to give you some quick details about this fund, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Avan.
Thanks, Faye. Well, the fund in focus this week is the Reliance Equity Opportunities Fund. It was launched in March 2005 and currently has net assets worth 5,216 crore rupees. This fund aims to invest in sectors and stocks which will drive the country's growth and are influenced by economic reforms. In its 8-year history, the fund's emphasis has changed several times to currently settle on small caps. In 2009, the fund clocked in handsome gains by giving returns of 109% against the category average of 93%. Since then, the fund has consistently beaten the category average, except for 2011, where the market crisis impacted the performance. The fund largely invests in sectors like financials, healthcare, and engineering. Since its inception, the fund has given annualized returns of 19% and is ranked at 20 out of 57 funds in the category. Let's do some math to give you a better perspective. If you invested 1,000 rupees in this fund when it launched, you would have 5,012 rupees today. So should this fund be a part of your portfolio? Our experts are here to give you the answer. With that, it's back to you, Faye.
All right, Avan, thank you for those details. Dhirendra, if we look at the Reliance Equity Opportunities Fund, it has recovered a fair amount since January this year, but it's underperforming its category average over the last 1 year, 6 months, 3 months. It still hasn't managed to catch up to the rest of the category. Is it time to give up on this fund?
I think, it has been a fairly mediocre fund, and of course, it has not done as well as most other funds in its category, but it has not been a very disappointing fund. I would say that, it has, at worst, it has been a very mediocre fund. And it has not been lucky so far with its, some of its, large number of small bets. So I would say one can have patience, and it has been a fairly mediocre fund. Last year, it was also unable to beat its benchmark.
Well, Dhirendra, the last time you reviewed this fund, you gave it 5 stars. Now, before I ask you for the star rating of this fund right now, I want to ask you this. If it's not the best option within the mid-cap or the multi-cap category, could you give us other options? Does it make sense to pick up your category listing for the year and move out of this fund and move into one of those funds instead?
Yes, absolutely. Our selection of mid and small cap fund will be a superior bet, will be a superior choice. And, those are proven funds in a fairly turbulent market, and they have actually, recovered far more smartly, just as much. Of course, this fund has also recovered well in last 3-4 months. But so have those funds.
Finally, Dhirendra, the last time you reviewed this fund, you gave it 5 stars on the show, but that was a while back. Given its recent performance, where would you place it now? What is the star rating you'd give it?
I would assign it a 3 star for its mediocrity for a long time now.
Reliance Equity Opportunities, they're getting 3 stars on Investor's Guide. Remember, Dhirendra saying it makes sense to pull your money out of this fund right now and move into one of the other options he's given you on the show. You can write to us if you have any questions about the review you just heard. Let's move on to our hold or sell segment. Well, Venkat writes in, Dhirendra. He writes to us from Abu Dhabi. He's 42 years old. He's looking to build a corpus of 3 crore rupees over the next 10 to 15 years. He wants to know if his investments are on track. Right on top on that list is the ICICI Prudential Focused Blue Chip Equity Fund. Good, strong fund. 15-year horizon. Does it make sense?
Yes, it's a good fund, but it is not a worthwhile fund because, the moment what we have seen in the last 4 or 5 years that, large caps have been on the forefront, and this fund has been particularly impressive. And this is not a very old fund, but, in its 5 year, it has been an outstanding fund. And the initial period, it was, very impressive. Of course, large caps are good to withstand a market decline. But, if he's wanting to optimize or maximize his return in this long period, this may not be the finest choice. He should consider a mainstream, well-diversified fund, substitute with some such fund.
All right, so substitute this fund with a well-diversified fund. Now, the next fund, Dhirendra, is going to be difficult to convince investors not to buy. The ICICI Prudential Exports and Other Services Fund has given a return of nearly 50% in the last 1 year. But of course, like you keep telling us, it is not a diversified fund. It's a focused fund. Does it make sense to hold on to it for the next 15 years?
Possibly, yes. But I would still say that there will be phase when this will not be, the theme on which it is based, export and services fund. An investor's focus should be to be with a proven fund manager and give him derive as much diversification as possible. And this is violation, or this fund does not fit on that. Yes, I would say that because this fund is up 50%, it is a good time to get out of this fund and diversify.
All right, it's a good time to get out of that fund. Now, hot on its heels is the next one, Dhirendra, the Birla Sun Life India Gen Next Fund. Of course, it hasn't performed as well as the iPru Export Fund. What's your recommendation on this one?
This fund, once again, is a thematic fund. It has not done as well as the ICICI Prudential Exports and Services Fund, but it has not done poorly. And this is once again, a thematic fund being created for the heck of it. I would say that this fund also this fund also does not justify its presence in his portfolio given his time frame.
Well, the next two funds on his list, I'm going to take them together because they're both mid-cap funds. There's the SBI Emerging Businesses and HDFC Mid-Cap Opportunities. Now, we know HDFC Mid-Cap Fund has recovered so smartly over the last 6 months. SBI Emerging Business is yet to catch on. Between the two, would you recommend he holds on to both of them?
Yeah, I would say that, both funds are outstanding fund. And given his time frame and given that he's doing his, SIP in these funds, they are worth, they should be 30-40% of his. Ideally, he should not. But I would say that given his time frame and because he's doing his SIPs, this should be 30-40% at most.
But he now only has two funds left in his portfolio, and that's Emerging Business and Mid-Cap Opportunities. Would you like to recommend other funds that he can add to it right now? Because according to your advice, he's going to have to book out of the other three funds in his portfolio.
Yeah, if I have to, recommend 2-3 funds to substitute, assuming that, he's going to invest equally in these 5 funds, 2 remains. And he can well substitute them with, ICICI Prudential Dynamic Fund, Quantum Long-Term Equity Fund, or, Mirai Asset Opportunity Fund. There could be decent bet.
Satish Kumar has written in from Chennai. He made 2 lump sum investments of 25,000 rupees in the SBI Magnum Tax Game Plan. Now, he tells us the investment has grown to give him returns of 6,000 rupees in 7 years, and the dividend option paid him 15,000 rupees in 5 years. He wants to know now if he should switch the growth investment to the dividend option. You always advise us against that, Dhirendra. What advice would you give him?
It doesn't make a difference. Effectively, his experience of the dividend plan is superior simply because at one point where, his earlier investment, the market did well and he was able to derive a part of his gains into in the dividend plan in the form of dividend. And the money which he was unable to take out because the growth plan, the whole money accumulates, it went up. Nothing came to him as by way of dividend. And then the whole value went down, and particularly Magnum Tax Gain had a very bad period after 2008. Both funds are doing exactly the same way, except that in the dividend plan you get you get some periodic income, and if that is material to you, be there. But you should not be switching from one plan to another, because the moment you do that, the lock-in applies and your money will be locked in once again, because the movement from growth plan to dividend plan or from dividend to the growth plan is considered as a financial transaction. And it's so the moment you move your money, it will be considered as a redemption of your old fund and investment in the new fund, and 3-year lock-in will apply and it will get stuck.
Well, Dhirendra, since his lock-in has expired on his initial investment, because he said 5 years and 7 years, and he's looking at switching right now, does it make sense for him to stay with the SBI Magnum Tax Gain, or would you recommend he considers another fund? He does still have tax savings to look for this year. Is there a better option for him?
Yeah, I would say that if that is the goal, if he just wants to move his money out, there are superior alternatives. Magnum Equity could be a good fund to move his money to, and he can move the money in both the investment, the dividend plan of the Magnum Tax Gain as well as the growth plan, into Magnum Equity.
So remember, invest regularly when you're looking at taxes. And for all of you who are wondering growth versus dividend payout, which one I should choose, if you actually have a plan for the dividend that's coming to you, you actually going to use it for something that it makes sense. If it's going to come back into your savings bank account and you're going to use it to watch movies and to go out to dinner and not keep track of it, then it does not make sense. Then you're defeating your purpose of investing in equity. Then you'd rather choose the growth option and have that money compound over the years. Dhirendra, thank you so much for joining us on the show and answering all of our questions. If you have a question for Dhirendra Kumar, write to us. Email ID is on your screen right now. When we come back after the break, we'll talk about investing in the PPF. We'll find out if that's a good option. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Investors Guide in ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. We've brought in Vishal Kapoor this week to answer the questions you sent in on asset allocation. Vishal is our expert. Vishal, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Investors Guide. Our first question comes in from Karthik. He writes in saying he wants to know the difference between the Public Provident Fund, the PPF, or the Voluntary Provident Fund, the VPF. He wants to know which of the two is a better option. Vishal.
Karthik, the primary difference between the PPF and the VPF may be the way that these funds invest. Now, the PPF is mandated by the government, and therefore the returns are almost guaranteed by the government. The VPF may have a bit more flexibility, and therefore returns could be better or worse than the PPF, and therefore there may be a bit more risk or volatility in the returns itself. So therefore it becomes your choice. If you want to stick with something which is more steady, then a PPF may be better. If you can afford a bit more experimenting or a bit more of variability in your return, then a VPF could be a choice as well.
Our next question comes in from Tanmay, who's written in saying he has a term cover of 25 lakh rupees. He also has a cover from his employer of another 25 lakh rupees and health insurance of 6.5 lakh rupees. Now, he's investing in the Birla Sun Life MNC and the ICICI Export Services Fund, and he's considering opening a public provident account as well. He wants to know if his investments are secure for his child's future and his own retirement. Vishal, I'm worried about his life insurance. It doesn't seem adequate at all. Could you tell him how he can go about increasing his life cover?
For Tanmay, the first question around is the insurance enough? The health insurance for him should be okay, but Tanmay should look at insurance for his wife as well. Term insurance, again, we don't know his income, unfortunately, so 50 lakh cover seems adequate, but Tanmay must keep in mind that 25 lakh out of that is through his employer. So should he change a job, that amount may be not covered, and therefore he could consider bumping up his term insurance cover through other plans as well. A rule of thumb Tanmay could apply is look at 10 to 12 times his annual income as the amount of term cover that he could look at. Now, coming to his savings needs, yes, Tanmay, starting a PPF may be a good first step. But if you're looking at longer term objectives like saving for your child or saving for your retirement, you should actually sit down with a planner and work that through. But an SIP is an excellent way to start and make sure that you get your savings more productive. Now, you are young and you are saving for goals which are long term, and therefore you should be able to understand the risk in equity and start off with an aggressive equity portfolio. Look at funds like ICICI Approved Dynamic, Birla Frontline Equity, BNP Paribas Equity, and build an SIP portfolio that gives you returns over a long period of time.
We have time for one last question on the show. Ajay has written in. He tells us he can put aside 10,000 rupees every month starting now. He wants to know where he should invest that money with a time horizon of 10 to 15 years. So, Vishal, that's quite a nice time horizon to have. So, with a long-term view like that, where would you like him to put that money?
For Ajay, unfortunately, I don't know his risk profile. So, if Ajay can take a bit of risk, I would recommend just two equity funds, maybe a combination of the ICICI Approved Dynamic as well as the Birla Sun Life Frontline Equity. An SIP in these for 10 to 15 years may be a good way to get the benefit of two styles of fund management and appreciation over a longer period of time. Now, if Ajay cannot handle all the risk of equity or a concentrated equity portfolio, then maybe a couple of balanced funds might be a better way to go, especially if he is new to this this world of investing. Now, there you could choose between two established balanced funds. There is a fair amount of track record built up. You could choose between the HDFC Balanced or the DSP BlackRock Balanced as two opportunities.
All right, Vishal, thank you so much for answering our questions this week. If you have a question for Vishal Kapoor, write to us. Email ID is at the bottom of your screen right now. Remember, you can send in any question you have about your money, and you can reach me personally on Twitter. Thanks so much for watching.